Alright, we're going to solve these quadratic equations with square roots. So the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you isolate the x squared. So here I've got x squared plus 49, and you move the 49 to the other side. And now to undo a square, you take the square root. Now when you take the square root of a negative number, you can try this on your calculator. So I've got 49 negative. If you take the square root of him, that's this button right here, it's going to give you an error because you can't actually do it. There is no solution to a square root of a negative number. No solutions. All right, the next guy, we're going to add 9 to both sides to get the x squared by itself. Okay, and now we're going to take the square root of both sides to isolate the x. If I go into my calculator and I hit 9 in the square root, it's going to give me 3. Okay, so I got 3, but that's the square root of 9. When we're taking the square root of a variable, if you think about this, what could have x have been to become 9? Well, 3 squared is obviously 9. 3 times 3. But there's another solution to that. It could have been negative 3. So anytime you take the square root of a variable on both sides using inverse operations like we did here, you're going to want to put a positive and a negative because x could have been 3 here. 3 squared is 9. Minus 9 is 0. Or negative 3 squared, which would have been 9 minus 9 is 0. So remember that step. We're going to do that in the next one. All right, so x squared minus 49 is 15. Add 49, and when you do it to both sides, you're going to get 64. The square root of both sides now. To get the x by itself, you undo squares with the square root. And you get plus or minus the square root of 64 is 8. All right, moving to the next guy, there's one more step. 4x squared minus 25 is 0. You add 25 to both sides, and you get 4x squared is equal to 25. Now here we don't have the x squared by itself. He's being multiplied by 4. So we're going to unmultiply by 4 by dividing by 4. This gives us x squared is equal to 25 divided by 4. And now when you take the square root of both sides to get the x by itself, this is like taking the square root of the 25 over the square root of 4. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 4 is 2. So you should end up with 5 halves on your calculator if you do this correctly, or you might end up with a decimal. So let's see what happens. I'm going to do 25 over 4, and I'm going to hit the square root. So 2.5, which is the same as 5 over 2. If I hit second backspace, it gives me 2.5, which is the same as 5 over 2. Now, one more thing, we took the square root of both sides and it had a variable involved in it, so we need to make sure this is a plus or minus. All right, now let's go to the next guy. A little bit bigger now, and our x is inside of parentheses before he's squared. So we're still going to do all of our inverse operations in the correct order. We always undo addition or subtraction first. Then we undo multiplication or division. We can't undo this subtraction because he's in the parentheses. We're going to undo this 2, which is being multiplied. So you unmultiply with division. And let's just rewrite this a little bit more neat now. I've got x minus 2 squared left on the left side. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Now I need to undo the square before I undo the subtraction. And I undo the square with a square root. Now 18 is not a perfect square, so I don't want to mess with 18 just yet. I'm just going to leave them as a square root. But I did take the square root and there was a variable involved, so we want to do a plus or minus the square root of 18. And my last step is I need to undo the minus 2 by adding 2. So my final two solutions are 2 plus the square root of 18 or 2 minus the square root of 18. All right, last one. 4 times x plus 7 squared minus 100. I'm going to undo the 100 first. We undo subtraction or addition. Undo the multiplication of 4 with division. Hundred divided by 4 is 25. Take the square root of both sides to get rid of the square. So it's plus or minus the square root of 25 is 5. And finally, we're going to undo the plus 7 with subtraction of 7. And so we finally have our answer. This is negative 7 plus 5. Or negative 7 minus 5. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. Negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12.